Welcome back to a brand new episode of What's New in Beauty. My name is Nia Lee, and I'm super excited to have you guys here. If this is your first time tuning in, this is essentially the space where I get to talk about all the new and exciting things happening in the beauty industry and give my little 2 cents onto it as well. Everything from the beauty news to launches to business moves. I love getting into it. So let's jump right in and talk about some actually recent news that just came out pretty recently about cult beauty. Now, I'm actually super intrigued by this because, I've seen brands dabble in it a little bit, but I've never seen a brand actually put out there and say, hey, this is the stamp that we're making. And so Cult Beauty just recently came out and said that they are essentially putting out an open letter to the UK government in regards to beauty brands and content creators, speaking to not essentially promising and speaking to not retouching models and imagery shot by cult beauty creatives, and they're putting a full stop to it. So this is the open letter. They said, for too long, beauty has been synonymous with a narrow set of, let's be honest, unattainable ideals. As a society, we've celebrated thinness, youth, and flawlessness, elevating certain attributes while vilifying everything beyond the strict parameters of perfect. With so many filters and apps that can instantly blur, tweak, and beautify image enhancement has never been more accessible and more acceptable. It is shocking that 80% of girls have said they have already applied a filter or used a retouching app to change the way they look in their photos by age 13. And, I don't know what the study of this could have been, but I could even imagine this being a higher percentage. But by the age of 13 is insane to me. But if I even think about it in today's age, a 13-year-old, if I want to do the math, and I can't do the math in my head right now, but if I'm just thinking about anybody that's been born in the people who have been born in the 2000s, I believe are in their 20s now. So just imagine the younger generation of that who were born in the 2010s essentially and up, who are essentially saying these things, or again, who they even put together for this, study of 80%. So I just wanted to put that out there that the numbers are probably even higher depending on who it is. And that's just by age 13, by the way. As a GP, I saw firsthand the effects that social media and digitally altered images can have on a person's relationship with their body image and well-being, says Dr. Luke Evans. Cult Beauty are proudly supporting Dr. Evans' initiative by signing the Body Image Pledge, a voluntary commitment that brands, companies, organizations, influencers, and celebrities can take to say that they will not digitally alter a person's body proportions in any of their direct imagery. In addition to signing the Body Image Pledge, Cult Beauty says, we are vowing not to retouch models in imagery shot by cult beauty creatives. We remain deeply committed to diversity and inclusivity, and we promise to continue to make sure the people you see represent the full, beautifully breadth of society. We will be undertaking a comprehensive review of our language guidelines to refrain the flaws that the industry has historically vilified. We're rolling out a watermark for cult beauty creative images to clearly label our images are retouched, and they have it literally says beauty untouched, and then it's got almost like a hand drawn circle over it to really stamp it that this is something that they want to highlight. They also said we are scoping out a labeling system for third-party brand partners and influencer images, so it's clear when an image we have been supplied is unretouched. And essentially, they're saying to all of those reading, we urge you to support this in our quest to challenge the standardized beauty narrative by signing our petition, and then they can find the link in the bio to do so. Now, first off, I just want to say that this is really exciting for a lot of reasons. And as big as cult beauty is, particularly within the UK, I think this is amazing. And I think it's something that we really need to pay attention to, especially in 2023, when brands are saying, hey, we want to be kind of the leaders in this, even though brands have dabbled in it in the past, even though that we've seen campaigns be put out in the past from other brands. But again, a campaign is only run for a certain amount of time. There's never really been a huge entity like a Cult Beauty, for example. It's almost like Sephora putting this out, right? Cult Beauty is pretty much kind of on that level, especially kind of in the UK. It's like if a brand gets into Cult Beauty, particularly a beauty brand, that's kind of a big stamp for them, right? I'm really impressed by this, and I think it's really important at the end of the day that brands kind of see where this is going. And if any brands are in cult beauty or interested in being in cult beauty, I think this would be super important for you to also take into consideration as well too, because you're really stamping yourself and saying that you are a part of the future by not only just signing the pledge, but fully being aligned with this, with everything that you do. Because you also got to think about it as well. Now, I don't know the intricacies of who's mainly shopping at Cult Beauty, but I would like to think that it's quite a younger demographic. Hey, it might even be primarily Gen Z, even though it seems that they've got a bunch of different people on the page, bunch of different diversity, you see different age groups, but I wouldn't be shocked and surprised that a lot of people who are buying from Cult Beauty and who they are actually marketing to, as I'm just looking on their Instagram, is a younger audience. So let's just put that out there. The one thing that I thought about immediately when I saw this and read it was Cult Beauty understands that Gen Z doesn't give two shits about retouched images and things looking perfect, right? If anything, Gen Z doesn't care about any of this, but they do care about beauty. They do care about shopping. They do care about makeup looking good on skin. But this level of perfection and polishedness and perfectness is not something that Gen Z gives a shit about. And I can say that as one who is in the space of beauty and see where beauty is going, to see how brands have consistently wanted to market to Gen Z, even though everyone's saying that, oh, it's millennials and it's boomers and it's whatnot that have money. A lot of brands are still heavily marketing to Gen Z because they understand that Gen Z is, where things pop, which is why TikTok is such a big thing for so many brands, because they realize that, yes, Gen Z is a big group of people that may or may not have all the coins in the world, but when they do have the coins for something, they're going to buy it, and they're going to buy things from brands that care about the things that they care about. And so a lot of Gen Z doesn't necessarily care about things looking perfect, and they don't necessarily give a shit about, things being super duper pristine. If anything, they want to see the things that Cult Beauty is essentially aligning with, which is unretouched images. Let's see diversity. Let's see inclusion. Let's see something different than what we have been seeing for how many decades now. And decades is even talking a little bit further, but here's the thing. Gen Z does a lot of research, and they understand, for the most part, the things that have been done in the past and how they haven't worked. And they're saying to themselves that we want to have a different world. We want to have a different industry. We want to see different things. And so I think this is super smart, and not only smart, but from what I'm reading, kind of feels sincere in a way. And I could be wrong. Companies do things for a bunch of different reasons, right? This could be falling into that corporate responsibility, sustainability, line of thinking, right? Even a diverse thinking as well, too, because a bunch of these companies have added in DEI programs and have put people in place to do these things. What I will say is that I hope other brands see this, and I hope other big corporations that house beauty brands also start to fall into this line. Because if you really think about it, it has nothing necessarily to do about, we need to market our products on perfect skin, because let's be honest, Gen Z doesn't have perfect skin. They're living in a world where, yes, they may be younger, but they've got a lot more issues to deal with, right? They might not have, again, all the coins to go to a dermatologist. And if they do, it's a long process. And what I've seen more so than anything is that there is definitely an insecurity about not necessarily, having pimples or dealing with skin issues or anything. There's no real insecurity around that. Gen Z actually feels quite secure about the fact that we don't have to worry about our skin looking perfect all the time and our bodies looking perfect all the time and us having to see pretty images all the time for you to sell us something. If anything, they want to hear these conversations that these brands are having. They want to know that a brand actually prioritizes diverse and inclusive models. They actually want to see brands show that, hey, yes, we understand that you've got textured skin. And so they actually want to see that. And I actually understand this as well, too, because when I was starting my brand Oily Skincare, I had that thought process as well, too, which is I remember feeling a way about my skin because of the way that it looked. And I knew that if I spoke to the insecurity, or if I knew that I spoke to the fact that it's not even an insecurity that you need to worry about, you just need to focus on embracing it and actually taking care of it, that's the conversation that needs to be had. Because again, Gen Z doesn't have a problem with the fact that I've got textured skin and I'm dealing with acne. If anything, they just want to know, are the products that I'm using, are they going to help treat my skin and have me feel better internally versus externally? And yes, looking good can come in so many other so many other factors, but I think at the end of the day, Gen Z cares more about representation and seeing different things and seeing things that are also deemed as not being popular and pretty all the time, so that we can make room for things that are real and transparent and honest. And so I feel like this is really upline for that. And then when you add the beauty element to that as well too, where the beauty industry is so heavily rooted in things being perfect and finding flaws and finding insecurities, I think when you have such a huge brand like Cult Beauty who says, we're essentially the home for some of the best beauty products globally, right? And even in the UK, but also globally, saying like, we understand that we are part of the problem because we have obviously uplifted these images for years and decades. And we have, not put a lot of regulations on brands and partners that we work with. But we're stopping that now, and we want to prioritize different looks, and we want to say, yes, we don't want to retouch things all the time. And they also put this out here as well too. We believe no body needs to be tweaked to be beautiful, and we want to trust that our visuals represent real skin and real bodies. And I think that it's super important that at the end of the day that people understand that when brands make a decision to do this, right? Because you got to think about it from a marketing and also just a business perspective. If you highlight the insecurity, right, and you market that your product is a solution for that insecurity or that pain point, that's how you make money, right? That's how the beauty industry has consistently made money for years. But now we're entering into a new zone where people don't necessarily, what's the word? Like Gen Z doesn't give a shit too much about the fact that you're making me feel bad about something. Because Gen Z doesn't, it's not something for you to feel bad about, if that makes sense. They care about the fact that the world is on fire and that our government is running amok, here in Canada, but also in the States. They care about the fact that they don't have their basic sense of needs, right? That's something that they feel embarrassed about or they feel insecure about or whatnot. That's something that's there. But something within the beauty realm, like a pimple or some extra rolls or some extra fat or whatever, they don't feel insecure about that. If anything, they're saying to themselves, listen, I have so many other things to worry about. The fact that I've got textured skin or I'm dealing with, the fact that I've gained weight during the pandemic, that's just life, right? And for so long, the beauty industry has banked on highlighting those insecurities and those pain points to get people to buy things. But that's not working in 2023 because we have so many other things to worry about. However, people are still buying beauty products. Actually, the amount of people that are bought makeup products have definitely skyrocketed since the actual pandemic. But you got to ask yourself again, why are people buying these products, right? It's not necessarily to deal with a pain point. If anything, it's just to make people feel good at this point. So it's if your marketing is making me feel shitty, then that's not going to work anymore. And I think Cult Beauty has recognized that. And I just hope and pray other organizations and other brands realize that in 2023, making people feel insecure about getting pimples or having some extra fat that hangs out of their underwear or their bra is not going to make them feel like they need to get your product. Because yes, you're going to have brands that obviously highlight those things, right? But it's not about that anymore. It's about, does the model that I'm looking at also look like me? Do I feel represented enough, right? I'm not looking at that model who's super duper skinny and that's got the best, boobs in the world or has got the flattest stomach and thinking to myself, I want to be her. That's not what Gen Z is doing. They're not doing it. So I just wanted, if any brands are listening to this or any, they're not thinking that. If anything, they're saying to themselves, it's 2023. Why are we still getting models that look like this when we know this is not what the reality is? And it's not even the reality for some of the models, because models have come out and have been honest about the fact that they've either been retouched or photoshopped or so on. So I'm just saying this. I don't want to harp too long on it, but I'm excited that Cult Beauty is entering into this lane. I hope also that they continue to showcase this throughout their marketing, because I'm just looking at what they have posted prior to this. And a lot of this stuff still feels very heavily edited and whatnot. But again, a lot of it's also very influencer heavy. So somebody actually wrote into the comment section of the post if they're going to be putting this type of mandate on the influencers and content creators that they do collaborate with. And someone from the team essentially said, hey, we're not going to police people necessarily on what they're going to necessarily do, but we are going to have our own standards and practices in place within our company to ensure that when we are working with these brands and so on and so forth, or when we're essentially working with influencers and content creators, that we're actually taking the time to vet, again, the influencers that we want to work with. And I hope this is something that they continue to do as well. And yeah, they gave a little bit more of a marketing jargon, but neither here nor there. I am excited to see what happens. And obviously, there's going to be some pushback from this. And obviously, I think Gen Z, more than anything, is going to be on their neck. But I am excited to see what comes of this. And I also hope a lot of brands also take heed to what is going on and saying to themselves, if we're really trying to get the Gen Z vote or get the Gen Z consumer, it's not inflecting fear into them. Because I actually wrote this in a comment section of a Beauty Independent just short kind of carousel that I was reading about how the fact that Gen Z doesn't give a shit about SPF. And I essentially said, it's honestly because a brand hasn't done a really great job at making SPF really cool and fun and accessible. And also, the fear of skin cancer is not something that somebody of a younger generation or a Gen Z generation is going to give a shit about. That is not what's going to get them to buy the SPF. You telling somebody who's in their 20s that they're going to get skin cancer, they can't fathom that. Or somebody who's 16 or somebody who's 12, they cannot fathom skin cancer. It's not something that they see. It's not something that they are aware of. So trying to tell them that that's what's going to come to them if they don't apply SPF every 2 hours or 2 times a day or whatever the mandate is for every brand, that's not going to work anymore. You've got to come up with something else. Not to mention how long it takes to create an SPF, which is why a lot of brands have shied away from SPFs, even though shout out to Do Skin, because I know they're in the process of creating an SPF, but it's going to be a long process. Right? It is always going to be a long process to create SPF. So it's why a lot of brands have not touched SPF. But I just think it's interesting when brands try to do the fear thing, because Gen Z, they're I don't want to say they're fearless. They have other fears that are outside of, their skin looking a certain way or aging, or again, having a little bit of, extra fat hanging out of their bra or their t-shirt, or, having to, again, they've got other worries to focus on. And the simple fact that they're not going to look skinny enough, or the fact that their skin is, not going to be as perfect and blemish free, is not a fear that they have. So for brands out there trying to see how they can really get the Gen Z vote or really get the Gen Z consumer to care, it's got to go beyond the aesthetics, and it's got to go beyond the superficial shit that really could have got over on millennials and boomers back then. Just saying. Next up, I want to speak to this really exciting collab that I saw between Pattern Beauty and Sergio Hudson. And I was actually actively watching this collaboration as it was coming together, because I'm actually subscribed to their newsletter. And they essentially came out with this super dope collaboration, Pattern Beauty Curl-Conscious Robe, designed in partnership with Sergio Hudson. Well, first off, I didn't know who Sergio Hudson was, but through a quick Google and some little researching, saw that he has literally dressed some of the best, everyone from Tracy herself to Keke Palmer to Madam Vice President. Literally, the list goes on. He's literally keeping the Black woman of Hollywood looking absolutely stunning, but also Jessica Chastain as well, too, that I'm seeing here. And Winnie Harlow. I'm on his Instagram, so I'm looking through everything here. But outside of that, I was really excited about this. This is going to be a chic, functional unisex robe, like all Pattern products, was created with your curls, coils, and tight textures in mind. It's made with responsibly sourced waffle weave fabric in sizes extra small to 2XL, and every detail was designed to make wash day easier. Essentially, Sergio Hudson's signature structured silhouette, flattering on everybody and every body, gives it the perfect blend of function and elegance. And I actually saw a video of Tracy, if you go on their Instagram, but also on their TikTok, I saw a video of Tracy essentially kind of modeling it as well too. And what I loved about it was that she really spoke to the fact that this is not just a robe that obviously, yes, you wear during wash day, but it's also quite functional and it's also quite sexy. It's a robe that you could literally like answer the door with. Like, it is definitely that kind of a robe. I love that it's also curl conscious as well too, which is something that you just don't see. And for women who have like, you know, curly hair or again, natural hair that is doing their wash day, there's a whole bunch that goes into that as well too. And I just love how when Pattern comes out with things, it always feels very intentional. Like, they don't just partner or they don't just create products just for the sake of creating something new. You can always tell with everything that they launch that it's really for like the textured hair community in some way, shape, or form. So in the video, Tracy was talking about how the sleeves, you know, that there's not too many long sleeves because obviously if you're doing wash day, the product usually comes down the actual sleeves and it's messy. So she spoke to that. She spoke the way that it was actually cut as well too, that it was right, just a little bit over the knee, that it has the perfect silhouette. She also spoke to the fact that the actual like tie for the robe wasn't separate, because that's always the annoying thing about a robe, is that you've got to like find the string, but the fact that the string itself is built in and it can actually cinch the waist quite nicely. Like, you can just tell that everything was intentional, and I love it. I haven't seen too many people wear it. I've only seen more so the actual promotional videos and whatnot. So, you know, I don't know if they had like a huge PR rollout for this in any way, shape, or form. But actually, I'm looking on their Instagram right here, and it looks like they have a Pattern hydration house, which is really nice and really exciting. I wonder if this was for Essence Fest. I feel like this might have been for Essence Fest. But either way, I love it because it's very on brand and it ties. Yeah, it was definitely for Essence Fest, I believe. But either way, I just love it. I love it. I kept my eye on it the entire time. I love that it's also very summer focused. It's also very relaxing focused. You can tell there's also like a self-care element there as well too. And again, what I love about this is as much as I love every sort of like beauty brand partnership, is that I'm just loving seeing beauty brands partner with prominent figures or artists or other brands to come up with products that you probably wouldn't expect for them to come out with. Because how many textured hair care brands that you would say are going to come out with robes or like some sort of a loungewear or something that like elevates the experience outside of hair? Because when you think about it, yes, hair care, you've got the shampoo, the conditioner, the edge control, the sheen spray. There's so many ways that what's it called? The edge combs, the rat tail, like there's so many ways that you can go about this, right? But you don't have too many brands that are saying we want to elevate the experience further. And I think that's always one of the best ways to like elevate your beauty brand, is like, how can we elevate the experience further? And if you've realized, a lot of brands have found their way of wanting to do things very experimental. Like, another one of my favorite brands, Summer Fridays, is super duper big on partnership, collaborating either with, you know, whether it's local businesses, whether it's with, they did a collaboration a few months ago that I just couldn't get over because it was with like a cookie dough brand. I think it was called Eat Duh, I believe it was. And they came out with like a limited edition cookie dough flavor that was the same brand colors as Summer Fridays. And it was believed to celebrate an anniversary. And it made so much sense also because it was like just fun, and it was also a way to elevate the beauty experience. Because when you think about beauty and like the jet lag mask and like the fact that like people are usually relaxing when they're applying jet lag masks, they're typically, you know, going about their lives, doing what they want to do, but they might be eating, they might want to eat cookie dough, they might want to chill on their couch. Like, there's just so many things. And like, I love when brands take an elevated approach at wanting to really say to themselves, you know, we want to obviously open up the door for obviously new product launches, right? When you're a brand, you obviously have launches that you want to prioritize. But when you then say to yourself, well, we want to create something that, one, no brand has ever really touched into that market. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the fact that when it comes to even just textured hair care, that industry, like, everybody kind of typically ends up doing the same thing. Like, there's only certain brands, like a Mael, for example, that kind of comes in and kind of dominates and goes in a certain direction, you know, that's very untraditional compared to the other textured hair care industry. But the textured hair care industry and product and brand has always kind of been safe, and they've always done the same things. What I love about Pattern, and they are pretty, like, I will say they're pretty conservative for the most part. Like, they don't really step out and do too much. They always kind of keep everything in house and everything's on brand. But I love that this is kind of, I guess, a step in the direction of luxury attire or luxury partnerships as well too. And this opens up an opportunity for them to partner with other prominent figures who do amazing things in their right, and then bringing pattern in some way, shape, or form. Like, I could totally see them creating like a pattern candle or even home decor, or, even something. And they, when they came out with the hair dryer, that was also really cool as well. Like, I just love it. And I love brands that consistently are always down for partnerships, but partnerships that obviously make sense to the brand and that elevate it in an even more exciting experience than what it once was. Because when you just think about it, again, it's shampoo, it's conditioner, it's gel, it's edge control, maybe again, a pick, edge control. Like there's only so much things you can do when it comes to hair care. But when you take it a step further and say to yourselves, well, we actually want to get into the fashion market now, then that opens up opportunity as well for them to do other things that people didn't really think that they could do. And so congrats to Pattern, congrats to Sergio Hudson, congrats to everybody involved with that. I loved the rollout of it. I loved the imagery. And I could just love the intentionality behind it as well too, because you could just tell this was a partnership that made the most sense. And there's also like a BTS video of Sergio styling Tracy as well. And it just feels very intentional. And I just hope brands make a decision to do more intentional partnerships. Like, I've been saying this and been singing this to the moon since last year, that brands need to do more partnerships, and particularly beauty brands need to do more partnerships. You need to do partnerships with influencers. You guys need to do partnerships with other brands. You need to do partnerships with designers. You need to do partnerships with local creatives. You need to do partnerships with people who we honestly wouldn't even expect. It's like when Fenty did that partnership with like that ketchup company. It could have been Heinz. I don't think it was Heinz, but again, it was just random, but it was cool and it got people talking. And it also showed that you don't know what our next move is going to be. And I think so much when it comes to beauty, again, there's only so much you can really do. But when you come up with a partnerships that's like this, I just think it makes the most sense. And I quickly also just wanted to talk about Barbie as well and their partnerships, because everybody has been going super duper crazy about all the Barbie partnerships that have been happening. And earlier in the month of June, Mattel announced that they were going to be essentially doing a bunch of licensing partnerships with a bunch of different brands. And they have literally every single day, honestly, week, they have come out with some sort of collaboration in some way, shape, or form. Everything from Spirit Halloween to Alex and Annie, Hot Topic. I saw NYX Cosmetics there, Base, Crocs. I'm reading the list right here. Impala Skate. You also have YM Group Canada, which, if you don't know, they own essentially, I believe, Aldo. They own Stitches, Urban Planet. So like, at the end of the day, you could have an amazing product, but the partnerships, but also the marketing of those things, they kind of honestly go hand in hand. And when you can do them really well, that's when people get really excited about it, right? Like, at the end of the day, people don't necessarily have a problem with being marketed to, but they don't want to feel like it just feels like a cash grab, right? They don't want to necessarily feel like the marketing or even the partnership itself doesn't make sense. And what I love about the Barbie partnerships is that everything they've come out with essentially makes sense in some way, shape, or form, because obviously they're trying to cast a wide net to get a lot of people interested into the Barbie movie, but they've done it in such an intentional way that it doesn't matter if you like Crocs or you like luggage or you like clothes or you like skates or you like vacationing. Like, they have honestly captured every market of every partnership, and that can have a lot of success on the main product itself, which is the movie, right? And at the end of the day, the power of partnerships mean that we're bringing both of our audiences together and we're trying to make a splash. And when I see brands do aligned partnerships that just make sense, this gets me really excited, especially from a marketing perspective as well too, because it just shows that when you have smart partnerships and you make a decision to say to yourself that we're going to do this right and we're going to make it make sense, that's the other thing, is that people also get really excited about it. Like, from what I've seen on TikTok, everybody is excited about the Barbie movie outside of the fact that it's going to be a great movie and everyone's excited about it and whatnot. They've been excited about the partnerships because they've all made sense, right? Or again, they're doing like experimental experiences as well too, you know, events and all these things to really hype it up, because again, your product is only as good as the marketing. You know what I mean? And I've had this conversation with so many people in the past, which is like, your product can only be as good as the marketing itself. And if the marketing is not solid, nobody will know how great your product is. Like, let's just say this, right? I'm not going to, spite Barbie's name, but the Barbie movie could suck, right? We literally have no idea. All we know is that Margot Robbie is in it, Ryan Gosling is in it, Issa Rae's in it, Simu Liu's in it, Greta Gerwig is directing it. That's all we know, right? We've seen press, we've seen interviews, we've seen collaborations. At the end of the day, whether you even think you're not even going to see the Barbie movie intentionally, you're being heavily marketed it to, but it doesn't even matter. The marketing is most likely going to get you in that seat during opening day on July 21st. So at the end of the day, you could have the best product in the world, but if the marketing is not there, ain't nobody gonna know about that. And that's just really what it comes down to. Or you could have the shittiest product in the world, but if you have great marketing, like, that could get people in the door, and then people can make a decision about if they like it or not. But by then you've already gotten their money, right? But obviously I would never suggest that. Obviously have a great product, put your heart and soul into it, make it something that's awesome and great, but then have the marketing match. And when you have both of those things going for you, it's always going to be a smash. Like, that's always typically one of the things that I say to people is that at the end of the day, your product is only as good as the marketing. That's really what it comes down to. And I think people kind of get that, but I think also people don't really understand it fully, especially sometimes founders, because brand founders, when they have their products, they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And they think, oh my God, like, I'm creating this because nobody has ever come up with this. When you have to think about it, like, everybody in some way, shape, or form has come up with this concept already. Right? You are not special because you decided that you wanted to start a beauty brand. Like, no duh. Literally everybody and their mom wants to start a beauty brand. But there's a reason as to why certain brands are super duper successful versus other. There's a reason why every celebrity is kind of coming out with a beauty brand, because Selena Gomez and Rihanna did it really, really well, and they want to cash in on that. But again, there's ways that you need to be able to do it, and you've got to understand the marketing of it, and a lot of people don't. So if that's something that y'all want to talk more about, that's definitely stuff that I actually want to talk more about. So definitely let me know, and definitely keep me posted if this is something that you even want to expound on even further about, like, the idea of what it means to have good marketing. And I'm not even just talking about social media. I'm literally talking about every other channel, which is sometimes something that people forget. But my expertise is in social media, so that's typically what I'll speak to. Last but not least, I wanted to speak to this really exciting thing because I have so much, like, what's the word? Like, I have so much connection to this brand for so many reasons. And it's all about the Body Shop opening a flagship store in Yorkdale in Toronto. Wow. Literally like 20 minutes away from me. But essentially, from Fashion Magazine, essentially this B Corp beauty brand, the Body Shop, a huge entity, essentially said that we want to have a flagship store in Yorkdale, which is actually really interesting to me because I just really want to know what the difference between Yorkdale and Eaton Center is in terms of, like, excitement. Because I would think that the Eaton Center might be the place that you want to have your flagship, but Yorkdale has a certain, like, sophistication to it that's really interesting, but neither here nor there. Essentially, this new location is focused around celebrating local communities. Essentially, the VP of Brand and Corporate Social Responsibility said our goal was to create a physical space that people truly want to be a part of. They essentially said whether learning about our incredible products and testing them through our sync experiences or engaging in change making through our ACT station, a space dedicated to petition signing and advocacy, the workshop which is essentially what they're calling their flagship, is a retail experience, is different, and people are noticing. They said they collaborated with the artist Laura Moore, whose handmade repurposed textile artwork is on display. The new location also serves up major nostalgia with limited edition throwback t-shirts on sale, with proceeds supporting the brand's Change Makers Youth Fund. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to speak about this, one, the Body Shop means so much to me because my aunt actually used to be a manager for the Body Shop for years, and used to work there. And, like, that's literally, I grew up on the Body Shop in the sense that, like, my first acne products when I was experiencing acne came from the Body Shop. And again, throwing it back to oily skincare, when I was, doing oily skincare and I was really trying to get brands to notice me, the Body Shop actually just reached out to me random to say, hey, we love what you're doing and we want to be a part of what you're doing. And it means so much to me that a brand of that magnitude said, hey, we see what you're doing and we want to be a part of that. Because again, brands are very much always kind of focused on their bottom line. And they're not necessarily saying to themselves, we want to focus on the little guys, right? Unless we see what you're doing and we want to scoop you up and buy you and whatnot, right? But what I think is really cool about this is, one, it is a location where you're doing more than just shopping. And I think that is where you're going to see a lot of more brands say to themselves, like, we're going to open some sort of retail. I think I just heard the news that Skims is opening a retail flagship location in LA. And you got to ask yourself, why would such a huge company say to themselves that we want to launch a flagship or we want to launch a retail experience when everybody's saying that retail is not the way to go because ain't nobody really shopping in the stores like that. Everybody's going online. But what I see with the Body Shop and this flagship store is kind of what I see with Aesop, right? And Aesop obviously was sold for an astronomically amount of money, like upwards to the billions recently. And when you think about an Aesop store, right, what they're essentially offering here at the Body Shop is at this new flagship store in Yorkdale is essentially what Aesop offers in every single retail location they have, right? And I believe there's an Aesop in Yorkdale. I could be wrong, but let me just double check. But neither here nor there. Like, it's so interesting to me how, and yes, there is an Aesop is there an Aesop in Yorkdale? Yes, there is. Okay. But neither here nor there, when I really think about it, it's not necessarily about let's just shop anymore, right? Shop, get in, get out, do whatever. I think a lot of people are saying to themselves, if we are going to create some sort of flagship store or retail or something in relation to that, this needs to be an experience for people to care. And when you really think about it, you saw this definitely during the pandemic, even sometimes post as well too, with influencer trips and events and anything in relation to that, where it's not necessarily just about going into a store and buying something. Let's make it an experience. Let's make this something that people actually remember. Instead of them just, going through our store and picking out a product and going to the cashier and checking out and leaving the store, let this be a place that they can do other things as well, whether it's trying out new products, through their sync experiences, or having a space that's dedicated to advocacy and signing petitions and being a part of change. Like, I think this is such an interesting thing, and you're going to see a lot more brands, from what I see, say to themselves that we're going to either create some sort of flagship, or we're going to create some sort of pop-up, or we're going to create some sort of collaboration in some way, shape, or form, where we do these things where it's not just about buying products. It is about an experience. It is about making people feel like they're not just coming in and out of retail to buy something, right? And this is something that's really, really exciting, because I actually spoke about this, I believe, or did I speak about this? Or I think I did actually, about the e.l.f. and I believe it was American Eagle collaboration that came out. And what I really liked about it was it just made sense, because e.l.f. is just that type of brand. Like, e.l.f. is a very Gen Z focused brand, and American Eagle has a very much an eye on Gen Z right now, and they're really killing it in that market. So it just made sense for both of those brands to come together. But I remember somebody on I believe it was either the e.l.f. or American Eagle team stating that, retail has been changed forever, especially since the pandemic. Ain't nobody really want to go outside. Online shopping is really popping off. So much so that, like, companies are creating, like, virtual try-on opportunities on their website. So why would the average person go out of their way to even go to a mall, let alone go into a store to buy something, right? It's very rare that people are going to go ahead and do that. What I love about this is that the Body Shop is saying, yes, we have retail locations literally all across Canada and in the US, but we want to have a flagship store where people are doing more than just actually shopping. And when you really think about it, it really, again, just comes down to creating an experience that means more than just buying product. Because once again, Gen Z doesn't give a shit about just buying products. Like, they care about advocacy. They care about sustainability. They care about experiences. Because here's also the thing. They're going to document those experiences. They're going to tell other people about it. They're going to put it on TikTok. They're going to put it on Instagram. They're going to get other people involved. And by proxy, again, we live in a generation where if you see somebody doing something really cool on TikTok or on Facebook or on Instagram or YouTube, you're going to be you're going to be essentially propelled and want to do the same thing that they're doing. It's just the way that we're, conditioned. However, they want to see if other people think that this is cool too. And that's always been a thing that has always gone on. But what I really like about it is that it's more than just them coming into, again, it's even more than just like the typical influencer experience that people typically have, where it's like, you come in for a night, you get your champagne. We know this is an influencer event. So it's photo op, photo op, photo op. And it just feels very overly curated. And I just feel like with the Body Shop doing this, it's giving curation, but also not really, because it also says to themselves at the end of the day that like, we want this to be more, right? We want this to be an experience that's different for people. And they said people are noticing, and I have no doubt, again, that brands are going to say to themselves, not even necessarily brands, the Allure store that opened up literally, I think a year or 2 years ago. Like when Allure said, hey, we are a huge entity. Nobody really buys Allure magazine anymore. People care about our thoughts. Let's create an experience where we partner and have beauty brands be featured in our stores. We're going to host masterclasses. We're going to do, people can come in and try out products. People can come in and get their hair done. And actually, Sally Beauty also came out with something like that as well, too, where I believe it's called Studio by Sally, where you can literally come in. Yes, you can buy your Sally Beauty products. I think you can get discounts, but you can also book to get your hair done. You can also learn how to dye your own hair. You can learn how to, braid. You can learn how to do all these different things. And I just see retail going in a different direction, because at the end of the day, people are not just going into stores and buying anything. They want experiences. They want something that feels tangible. Sometimes they're going in and they're not even buying shit. So how can we still make this an experience that, doesn't just have them coming in and walking out? Because that is a thing that typically happens in retail. I don't go to the mall that often, but anytime I go to a mall and everything just kind of feels like, first of all, the sales associates ain't even really getting up like that. Like the customer service is gone. So when I am getting customer service, again, I'm going into stores because I need to get something. I'm not really going in to browse. And again, the younger generation is not really going in to browse because they've already done the browsing on YouTube. They've already done the browsing on TikTok. They already know what to get. They don't care to browse. They care to get what they want. Now, if you add an experience onto that, if you say I can test out new products, if you say I can learn how to do this, if you can say I can go get my hair done, it becomes an experience that really speaks to that. And I love that the Body Shop is going in this direction. The Body Shop to me has always been a brand that like cares about the environment and also cares about how its community looks at them. Like they're not a brand that just does something because it's a bottom line thing. Like, yes, I'm sure this obviously feeds to that, but they never give me the vibe that they're just doing something for a check or for cash. This feels like we have a community of people that we want to serve and we want to speak to, and we want to create a space for them to come in and feel comfortable and feel like they're a part of what it is that we're doing. And I commend them for that. I congratulate them for that. And again, I hope more brands, retail is hard, right? I'm not even trying to cap. Like retail is a difficult feat to get in. Let's just say to get into like a detox market or get into a Credo or get into Sephora, right? That's its own thing. But when you yourself as the brand and even as the founder say to yourself, like, how can we benefit from retail? If you create your own ecosystem, you can really decide how you want this whole thing to fly. And it doesn't have to be like traditional retail. It doesn't have to be people come into your store and there's sales associates and that's it. You can really steer the ship on what you want this experience to be. And instead, not just focus on people buying your products, but really having an experience. And you've been seeing a lot of brands do that in different ways as well with their marketing, whether it's through pop-up shops or again, through collaborations and partnerships, or again, just creating products that, we would have had no idea of, but they're really cool and people love them. Like, you've seen brands try to do different things. I will say you're going to see a lot more brands say to themselves, how can we create experiences? You could do that with retail really easily. Of course, not everybody can create their own flagship store, right? So that's kind of hard. But even like a brand like Topicals, for example, what I love that they've been doing this summer is they've been essentially hosting this thing called Summer Camp, where they're partnering with entities and, whether it's artists, DJs, places where people go to vibe and jam and do day parties. Like they're essentially kind of saying like, we're kind of sponsoring that and we're facilitating that. Like we want you to know that like, it's not just about buying our products. It's about how you feel as our community and creating that safe space as well too, and showing that it's not just transactional relationships that we're looking for. We're actually wanting to have meaning, and we want you to think about us not just about product, because at the end of the day, it's not even about the product. As I said, it really comes down to the marketing. It comes down to the community. It comes down to the experience. It comes down to the experience that you're really fostering for people. And again, if you're trying to speak to Gen Z or anybody younger, they don't really care about your product like that. They care about how does it make them feel, right? I mean, that's traditional marketing. Everybody kind of, cares about how they feel. But at the end of the day, Gen Z doesn't care about the fact that like, you got a new store and whatnot. Like they want to know, can I come in here and experience something? Can I come in here and not just necessarily focus on buying a product, but can I come in here and learn something new? Can I hear somebody speak? Can I learn how to do something? Like there's so many ways that really goes into it. And so I love that Body Shop is doing this. And like I said, I hope to see more brands say to themselves that we want to create our own experiences, whether it retail would be great to do that as well. But again, if you're not able to do that in a retail setting, you might do it the way that Topicals did, where they will sponsor, certain days out of the week where people can come in and party and jam and drink and have fun or learn something new or whatever it may be. Right. I just saw, again, Summer Fridays partner with a Pilates studio to give people opportunities to do Pilates. And I think they also did something where they brought their community together to do a Pilates class. Like it's something so simple as that, to say that we don't want you to just think about us when it comes to product. Like we want you to feel like this is a community. We want to have conversations because, again, it only helps you as the brand to do that. Because if you don't have a genuine community of people, fans, customers, whatever it may be, but even that, I don't even really like that word fan and customer. It's got to go deeper than that, right? You've got to make people feel that way. And I know a lot of people don't have those thoughts, but you need to start having those thoughts. You need to figure out, how can we start cultivating genuine connections with our community so that it doesn't just feel like it's a transactional relationship of you buying our product and we sending you a code, or we sending you a code, you buy our product and you love our product and that's it. Like the brands that are really succeeding in 2023 and beyond have said to themselves that we're not just a product. We want to create experiences and we want people to feel like they belong. Right. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. And again, the brands that are succeeding today are really getting it done. And of course, they have great product as well, too. That's a given. You've got to have great product. But the marketing, the experiences, the touch points, they matter. So all that to be said, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of What's New in Beauty. This has been such a fruitful episode, and I'm just happy that, we're slowly but surely getting back into seeing brands do exciting, revolutionary, innovative things. Like I really pride myself on seeing these things, see them happening in real time, and I love speaking to them even further as well too. Of course, if you have any questions for me, definitely DM me at Socially Savvy Nia if you want to chat more about the episode or you have any thoughts as well as a beauty brand yourself. If you don't know, I have my own marketing agency where we work with innovative brands, helping them with everything from strategy to video content creation to social media marketing to ensure that your brand actually stands out in the world of beauty and in the world of social media as well too. So if you have any questions, definitely let your girl know. But until then, I will catch you in another episode.